Well, today is another beautifully grim morning, and now you have the full package. There is rain, there is wind, and it's fairly cold. So that's the sweet three of a typical gloomy, grim morning. Although the winter's not as the wind is not as crazy, and the rain isn't either, so it's okay. Could be worse. Anyways, I'm gonna dive into what I started in the previous video and continue with what I promised, and that is the human impact on migration patterns. And I was talking about storks and how dumps in Spain have caused storks to stop in essentially not even in the middle of their journey, but even sooner than that. And I'm gonna have to call Drake again. He's not doing it on purpose, but it almost feels like it, really. Good boy. It's like he rarely goes on his own. He's like, he's waiting. It's as if he is waiting for that whistle, you know? And I mean, why wouldn't he, right? I mean, he knows he's gonna get that treat, and he knows that if he comes on his own, he's not gonna get it, so I would probably do the same. I would wait for the whistle because I would want a treat. Anyway, so those storks are stopping not even in the half of their journey on those dumps, on those landfills in Spain where they're spending winter. And I believe there's some like legislation underway to stop those landfills and to just not destroy them, but don't have those landfills in there, so it's not having such an impact on such large populations of storks. I'm not sure where it, I was watching that whole thing years ago, so I'm not sure where the legislation is right now, if something happened or not, and if they did made those landfills not illegal, but if they canceled them, quote unquote. Not sure, but it had such an incredible impact on storks. And the other very even more, I would say even more fascinating story in that regard, in regards of human activity having a huge impact on migration patterns and general behavior of birds, is a story of a blackcap. And blackcap is a bird, small, tiny songbird, with a Latin name of Sylvia atricapilla, and it's got a very beautiful song. We're gonna definitely hear it. It sounds a little bit like a blackbird, but it's much more high pitched and much more faster. And it's a very typical looking bird with like a black cap. That's why it's called blackcap. And sort of grayish body, and by the way, female has a brown or sort of a rusty brown cap, which is a good distinction if you want to tell female and male apart. They have this great dimorphism. So this blackcap has been migrating south for the most part. And I think they're taking a slightly eastern route. It depends on where in Europe, of course, you are. But it's been taking, essentially flying south. Let's just simplify it. And what happened is that in Czech Republic especially, there is sort of a line where this behavior broke into two different groups. So to the east, that part of the population still flies south, but the population somewhere, like imagine the map and like the middle of Czech Republic, so somewhere like towards the west, the western part, the western population is flying somewhere else, and it actually happened over the course of decades, really. You know, it has not been happening for centuries. It's just a couple of decades. And what was happening and what is happening is that people in Great Britain love birds. They put up feeders in their gardens, and they really put a lot of work into it. They've put out a lot of goodies for the birds, you know, not just seeds, but they put all sorts of things. Like, it's a whole different level. People love birds in Great Britain, as far as I know, and they love bird watching, and they just, you know, they have all these expensive binoculars, and they like really go all in, and they love birds, and they put those feeders out on their gardens, and they put also stuff that the blackcap likes, and blackcaps somehow discovered that is the thing, and that throughout the winter there are so many people, so many gardens where they have nice cover to hide, nice like hedgerows and bushes, and plenty of food throughout the whole winter. And also, not only that, but the winter in Great Britain is fairly mild, you know, being in an island, so it's fairly mild, you know, being close to the sea and all that. So blackcap discovered that, and part of the population, and the whole part of the population to the west, started flying, instead of to the south, started flying to Great Britain to spend their winter. And that was discovered through ringing and through you know, research of various ornithologists, that those birds that they ringed came back and were reported in Britain, or when they came back they had a British, you know, band or ring. And that's how it was figured out and found out, oh, this whole population is flying, instead of to the south, it's flying actually to the west, to Great Britain. And one of the former colleagues of mine, like, sorry, I mean he was a friend, let's say, but you know, we were more of like acquaintances, and acquaintances through a similar hobby, let's say. You know, we were both doing ornithology and ringing and all that. So he and his father, they were doing a research on these birds, and they were actually perfectly in the middle of that sort of population split, and they were banding and measuring all those birds from both the western and the eastern population. And what they found out, and what has been found out, is that the birds that has been flying for those, I don't know, 30, 40 years to Great Britain. We're beautifully hearing a wren, and I can actually see it. It was like on that little oak there. I took my glasses, so that's why I can see it finally. What has been found out, that population that has been flying to Great Britain for over those 30, 40 years, or how long, that population is changing physically, and that's something that is mind-blowing to me, because you would imagine, oh yeah, like evolution, right, that takes thousands and millions of years, you know. But a fascinating thing is happening right before our very eyes, in our lifetime of our generation, you know, where these birds that fly to the west to go to those feeders in Great Britain. What's up, Drake? Oh fuck! Oh yeah, I left my Jesus Christ, I left my tape here. You know, that's funny. I left my measuring tape here. Thank you, Drake, for reminding me. I was actually here yesterday, and I was stealing some wood. I mean, actually, yeah, I did steal some wood. Guilty as charged. But I mean, there was a small little dude, I don't know what this guy is called. It's not a beach, but it's wait, hold on, is it a beach? Oh, I thought it's no, it's not a beach. No, as I thought, it's not a beach. Yeah, it's like a relative of beach, and I'm gonna find out the English word. But this old and dried out a pine fell down, and as you can see, it fell all the way up here, and there's this like large branch of it, and it fell down onto this guy here and broke it. You know, it was like bent down and broken, kind of split in half here, and it was in the way. So at one point I came with a saw and I sawed off this part and that part, and I sawed it off so I could clear the path, you know, so that I could walk freely through here. And I also saw off this guy because it was in the way, and there was no chance to save it really. Well, and yesterday we realized that we need two or three pieces of wood to make a stand for something in the bathroom. And I figured out, oh well, there's this very straight trunk of this little tree that would work perfectly because it's a hard wood and it's fresh. So I came yesterday with a saw and with a measuring tape, and you know, took all the pieces of wood that we needed and made the stand, and that's already done. But I left my measuring tape here. Totally forgot about it, so that's good. Anyways, so what I was talking about is that the western population of those blackbirds flying to Britain are actually changing physically, and that's something mind-blowing for me. That truly, as I said, that evolutionary part, like this evolution of birds changing and their physical form changing, you know, according to their actual like current needs and environment and everything. It's happening, and it's happening in a matter of decades, and this particular bird. And I'm sure there are other birds that will experience the same thing. Birds, for instance, they're starting to prefer a city instead of like woodland, for instance. And there are tons of birds like that, like for instance wood pigeon. We're going to talk about that some other time. But this bird, blackbird, and blackcap, and its western population that flies to Britain to feed on those feeders started to change physically. And it was actually measured that this western population, their wings are getting shorter because they don't have to fly that far south, so their wings are getting shorter, and that's the interesting part. Their beak is getting longer, and it's getting longer because, you know, all those feeders and those like meshes where you have like this wire grid and you put stuff in it, so they can reach it more easily. Their beak is kind of getting more pointy and more sort of longer, so they can like extract from those feeders more and more and more easily. So their beak is getting longer and their wings are getting shorter because they're flying a shorter distance. And I find that absolutely amazing. And actually what's probably going to happen in more and more time, it's like more decades, and maybe, I don't know, hundreds of years from now, is that population will form its own separate subspecies of blackcap, you know, and that's very highly possible. And that's how, like, evolution, as I said, happens right before our very eyes, and we are directly responsible for it. For Great Britain and the bird lovers there, by putting all those feeders, they're directly connected and responsible. Their activity impacted this particular bird and its western population on such a level that it's changing its physical form. Like, I mean, that is just mind-blowing to me. You know, that is incredible. So that's the story I wanted to tell you, and a very interesting piece of information that really fascinates me. And it just shows how incredibly impactful our activity can be, in a good way, but also in a very negative way. And it's definitely not something to be taken lightly, and something not to be underestimated. Because as you can see, something as simple as like putting out the bird feeder on your garden, you know, can have such a massive impact on a whole entire population of hundreds of thousands of birds that are changing not only their migration pattern, because they have been flying south for, I don't know, God knows how long. So not only they're changing their ways and their migration patterns, but they're also changing their physical form, which is absolutely mind-blowing. So that's what I wanted to cover today, and we got to the very end at the end of the walk, so brilliantly timed. And that's about that. So I'm just gonna walk towards the end of there and sign off at the usual place and the usual spot. And I'm glad I've rediscovered and found that measuring tape. I mean, I would come across it eventually, right? But totally forgot about it. Anyways, I'm gonna sign off now.